The cargo bay of the Valiant Claw hummed with the low vibration of ion engines, a sound that had become as familiar to Lena as her own heartbeat. She sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor, her worn thermal blanket draped across her shoulders, the only comfort item she'd been allowed to bring when the Krithak Empire had conscripted her as a cultural liaison, a fancy term for hostage she'd learned quickly enough. Across from her, pressed against the far wall, two small forms huddled together. Rock and Sira, the offspring of Commander Thralax, watched her with luminous amber eyes that gleamed in the dim lighting. Their fur, still downy soft despite the sharp quills beginning to emerge along their spines, rippled with nervous energy. They were magnificent creatures, even as cubs, all sleek muscle and predatory grace, built by evolution to hunt across the crimson plains of Krythax Prime. They were also terrified. The temperature control had failed 3 hours ago. Lena could see her breath misting in the air, and she knew the cubs felt it worse. Their species had evolved under twin suns. Cold was as alien to them as their multiple rows of teeth were to her. "You're shivering," Lena said softly, her words emerging in the guttural clicks and growls of Krithak. She'd spent 6 months learning their language, driven by boredom and a stubborn refusal to remain ignorant. Rock's ears flattened against his skull. "Humans notice everything," he muttered to his sister. "Father says they're weak, but their eyes never stop hunting." "We are not cold," Sira declared, lifting her chin with juvenile pride even as her body trembled. "Krithak do not feel discomfort." Lena smiled despite herself. Pride. Now that was universal. She'd seen it in every species she'd encountered, from the insectoid Vzist traders to the crystalline lumens. Everyone wanted to be strong, especially the young. She stood slowly, keeping her movements deliberate and non-threatening. The guards had beaten that lesson into her early on. Sudden movements around Krythak younglings triggered their hunting instincts, and even cubs could tear through flesh with ease. "I believe you," she said, walking toward them with her blanket trailing behind her. "But I'm very cold and this blanket is too large for just me. Would you mind helping me keep it warm? It works better with more bodies." It was a transparent lie, and Rock's skeptical snort told her he knew it. But Sira's eyes widened with something that looked like hope. "That would be acceptable," the female cub said carefully. "If it helps you, human." Lena settled beside them, feeling the unnatural heat radiating from their bodies, their metabolism burning hot to compensate for the cold. She spread the blanket wide, draping it over all three of them. The fabric, woven from synthetic fibers designed for deep space exploration, immediately trapped their combined warmth. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Rock shuffled closer, pressing against Lena's side. Sira followed, and soon both cubs were curled against her, their rapid heartbeats thundering like war drums against her ribs. "Your covering is soft," Sira murmured, her clawed fingers grasping the blanket's edge. "Not like our sleep furs." "It's called a blanket," Lena said. "My grandmother made it for me before I left Earth. She said it would keep me safe among the stars." "Did it?" Rock asked. And Lena heard the child beneath the predator, curious, vulnerable, afraid. "It kept me warm," she answered honestly, "and sometimes that's enough." They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, the cold gradually retreating before their shared heat. Then Sira shifted, pulling the blanket's corner tighter around herself. "That's my corner," Rock growled immediately, tugging it back. "I was here first." "You were not." "I claimed this corner when we sat down." "Did not." "Did too." Lena watched them squabble, their earlier dignity forgotten in the universal language of sibling rivalry. They pulled and tugged, their claws catching in the fabric, their voices rising in pitch until they were practically yowling at each other. "Enough," she said, her voice firm, but not unkind. Both cubs froze, looking at her with wide eyes. "There's a solution here that you're both missing." "What solution?" Sira demanded. "There's only one corner with the tag that says made with love. The softest part. Rock is trying to steal it." I'm not stealing what's rightfully mine. Lena reached down and gently detached both cubs from the blanket. She folded it carefully, then draped it over them again, this time with the prized corner positioned exactly between them. Share it, she said simply. The corner is soft enough for two. They stared at her as if she'd spoken in an alien tongue, which, Lena supposed she had. Share? Rock repeated slowly. But then, neither of us wins. No, Lena agreed. But you both get what you need, warmth, comfort, and your sister or brother beside you. Isn't that better than fighting over something that works best when used together? The cubs exchanged glances, communicating in that wordless way that siblings across the universe seemed to master. Then slowly, they both moved to the corner, pressing against each other with the soft fabric between them. Humans are strange, Sierra announced, but she was purring, a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through Lena's bones. Very strange, Rock agreed, but his tail had stopped lashing, wrapping instead around his sisters. Lena leaned back against the wall, watching them settle. The cargo bay was still cold, the engine still hummed, and she was still a captive on an alien ship light years from home. But here, in this small moment, she'd done something that mattered. She'd shared warmth with those who needed it, taught a lesson that transcended species, and reminded herself why humanity's greatest strength had never been their weapons or their warships. It was their willingness to share their blanket, even with predators. Lena? Sierra's voice was drowsy now, sleep pulling her under. Will you tell us about Earth? Father says it's a weak world, but you don't seem weak. Lena smiled in the darkness. Earth is a world where we learned that sharing doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong enough to survive anything, even the cold of space. Tell us more, Rock mumbled, already half asleep. And she did, her voice weaving stories of humanity through the cold cargo bay, while two predator cubs dreamed beneath a grandmother's blanket, learning that sometimes the fiercest warriors are the ones who know when to share instead of conquer. The temperature control would be fixed by morning. But something else had been repaired that night, something far more important than mere machinery.